alphabetical order. So first up, we have Ruth Danon, and I do have everybody's bio, so I am going to read it for everyone to take a moment to get their compasses set for what's coming up. So Ruth Danon, current Poet Laureate of Beacon, New York and Dutchess County, is the author of Turn Up the Heat, Word Has It, Limitless Tiny Boat, and Triangulation from a Known Point, a chapbook. And a chapbook, Living with the Firemen, and a book of literary criticism, Work in the English Novel. Her memoir, Long Ago in the 20th Century, is forthcoming from Grid Books. Her poetry and prose have appeared in publications such as Tupelo Quarterly, On the Seawall, Hayden's Ferry Review, which doesn't get much better than that. I don't think it gets any better than that, and others. Her work has been anthologized in Best American Poetry 2002, Stronger Than Fear, and the Poetry is Bread anthology, among others. She is the founder of Live Writing, a project, or maybe it's Live Writing, I think it would work both ways, a project for the reading, writing, and performance of poetry, which has, since 2018, offered workshops and performances in Beacon, New York, and across the country. Residencies include Ragdale, Yaddo, VCCA, and Soaring Gardens. And with that, I'm going to let Greg spotlight Ruth. And again, it's about 20 minutes per, so bring it on.
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that introduction. I appreciate being here. It's really an honor to be here, an honor to read with Tim and Matthew. I'm always nervous if I'm first, so I'm very nervous. I'm going to be reading mostly new work, actually, which is quite a surprise to me, but here it is, new work, mostly, and a variety of things, which I will sort of talk about as I go along. I'm going to scroll from the screen. So let me put it up and make sure that you can see me. Can you see me and hear me?
Yes.
Am I there?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to read. I'm going to be gazing at the camera. I wish I could see all your faces, but I'm going to gaze at the camera. So this has been an interesting time, as the Chinese curse tells us. But we had a nice thing happen this week, which is that the 4 astronauts soared off into space, and they're in process of circling the moon, which is terrific. But it does leave us with one more thing to worry about, that Earth's magnetic field is weakening. This will make space travel far more difficult. No doubt, I say. No fucking doubt. That's my opening ditty. Next poem is called The Hunt. You know how it is sometimes? You want a table lamp, one that would grow a halo around itself. This lamp is everything a lamp should be, wise in the way that illumination should be wise. The word enlightenment comes to mind, and you laugh at the poverty of your own joke. How dull you are, how elusive, and yet pedantic the words. I know the reader will agree. The perfect lamp tilted on a table, bending to the will of your small hand, is hard to find. There's mostly desire and quest and disappointment. Lost in reveries and recrimination, you remember the glow. This is a very new one called Prow and Stern. Is a poem something you want to remember after all is said and done? Do you remember the story you were telling about the small boat beached in bright new snow, its prow and stern poking out like tips of a crescent moon laid flat on its side? So off kilter, full deck buried in the cold, That's what you don't know, that part, that old yet undiscovered part of the story. This poem is called Monosyllabic. I like monosyllables. And in this case, the monosyllables seem to be the only way to write this poem. It's in memory of Renee Good and Andrew Preddy, who were murdered in Minnesota. Monosyllabic. I wish I had words, but I don't. I wish a wash of tears would come, but they don't. I wish it was not a cold land, but it is. I wish the dead had not died from a cold hand, but they did. And in a related poem, a little bit older, this poem is called Blunder. No, blunder like with a U, and not a blender like a milkshake. Blunder. Now we live in a country of no mercy. The lawn mower blundered over the rabbit's nest. The fumes dispersed into thin air, spreading the germs causing rabbit fever. The rabbits die. The mower gets sick. In the country of no mercy, after the blunder, no one knows what to do. I'm going to read a prose poem now, a longer poem. It's called About Coffee. And I wrote it because I got mad. I got mad because people asked me and other people, what is your poem about? What is the poem about? And I don't think poems are about, I think they are. They are things. They are their own living things. And so this annoyance produced this poem called About Coffee. There was this thing they called about, and I did not know what it was. There was sun sometimes and moon some other times. So much I didn't understand, why one hand never knew what the other was doing. Oh, mustard seed, oh, trying out the dry hunger that plagued me morning and evening. Oh, now, eat from my hand, little cat, little dog. I am a speck this morning, when you can't see, when you never saw. Speck ate a cookie, Speck drank some coffee. I know ritual, but not reason. I know my reasons, but they don't translate. I had a mother once. She died, and she was not an old lady when she died. Out of the miasmic past, she held out an apple. It was she in her flowered house dress. I could see the coffee stain somewhere on the front to the left of the top button. The coffee stain in the flowered housecoat told me it was her. She held out an apple, cradled in her hand, the way she cradled a cup of coffee. That was comfort for her, that that cup of coffee. And now she was holding out an apple as if it were a cup of coffee. Take it, she said. It was as if she was saying, everything I need you to know is here in this apple. Everything. I come from a gifting culture. Once I was too poor to buy gifts, but a gold-foiled apple, I could afford that. It had the heft and shape of an apple. I gave it to someone I loved. I loved someone then. When the someone I loved unfoiled the apple, there was chocolate. Perfect pieces fell out of the foil like leaves from an unfathomable tree. Fell out first, then foiled me, fooled me. Then the one I loved was gone. Then my mother was gone. Then the apple was gone. Now, you tell me, what was that about? Are you all okay there? There's a new poem. This is an old poem, I'm sorry. This is a COVID poem. and it's from my last book, Turn Up the Heat. How we live now. I have heard lately more than once of men falling out of their beds. Sometimes they hurt themselves falling out of bed and so resort to sleeping on the floor. And I've heard as well that the women living with the men who fall out of their beds are forced to sleep alone because the force that forces these men to fall out of their beds is dangerous to the women they sleep next to. I have heard lately of women eating dinner alone because the men who fall out of their beds and sleep on the floor go to sleep very early and so are not awake when the women are hungry. Don't you think these are strange times? We are wearing our masks indoors. When the women eat alone, they become particular. The place setting just so, the candles lit, one glass of wine, one piece of chocolate to end the meal. This is how we live. This is what we have come to. And this poem, also not so new but not so old, is Running Grief. It's in parts. I'm not going to read the numbers. I'm just going to read the poem and pause a little between the parts. Running Grief. If I think back to where I was before I was where I am, I can see myself running towards the train. Or was it rain that I was running towards and into, fat drops on a liquid day? Or was I running towards or into the life I am living now, so filled with green and grief? Was I running towards grief the whole time of my life? And if I was running towards grief the whole time, and it was grief I was running into and not the train or the rain, why was I running? What was the hurry? There was no reason to get there, wherever there was, quickly. Was there? I listened for the sound my feet make, a slap against pavement that might be a secret slap against time. So a couple years ago, one of my students told me about the television series called The Americans. So I binge watched it way after everybody else had seen it. And then I started writing poems about spies, and the spies just keep coming. And so now I'm going to read you some spy poems. There's no narrative, by the way. There's no consistent narrative. There's just spy poems. The thing is with spies, there is never a moment when they are not spies. By the river, in the train car, on the sidewalk, in the bathtub, at the grocer, when the clock strikes after hours before the sunrise, with a lover, with their babies smiling, crying, always they are spies. The seduction of spies. New spies never know they are becoming spies. They fall into it the way a branch falls into a river. Someone asks a question and the hapless about to be spy answers, and then it's off to the races from that point on. The new spy is charmed by the moon, by any hint of mystery and obfuscation. It was never about the secrets themselves. It was all about this elaborate machinery of subterfuge. The spy apprehends the leaf that falls from the oak in the yard. It carries all the messages anyone needs. But the spy, preoccupied with gravity, has forgotten to pick up the leaf, so yellow and veined. Why I love the spies. You must understand I love these spies, hapless as they are. Their kitchens are perfect. Their children go to school carrying tiny backpacks. They wait for orders, and when the phone rings, they have stupid conversations with serious men who tell them that the office is topsy-turvy. That means all hell is breaking loose. Yes, they have an office. Yes, they impose slang. In the perfect kitchen, their children explain baseball. Spies find this hilarious. So hard for them to care about an inning when they know this world is on its way out. Spies think they can save the world. Foolish. They cannot even save themselves. If you don't know The Americans, I heartily recommend it. It's all about people who have to live double lives. And I think that that's also true of poets. The Secret Lives of Spies. Not the double life that troubles, not the late nights alone in strange towns, not the homes they have lost, or the parents, or the language, or the good food their mothers made. Not the danger, not the boredom that outweighs the danger, none of that. It's that at night the spies write their thoughts in notebooks, hard-covered, red and black, neatly lined in blue, and each night they tear out a page with their own hands and burn their blue words in the back garden. The ashes of pages rest in nets of butts made from cigarettes. No one ever sees them smoke. Taking a break from the spies. And I'll come back to them after this poem. Retrospective. It's also in parts, but I'm going to just quiet down when I'm in between. Retrospective. How the eyes' tunics drop down. Not modesty, exhaustion. All that spinning of wheels, that much and much more. I turned away from squads of horses, from men on horses leading the way, sweaty flank against sweaty flank. How briefly they touched. I kid myself. I know nothing of horses or of squads of men. Once, though, when I was young, I rode a horse on a ridge overlooking the Pacific. Horse should have been galloping. It was not. My long hair should have been streaming behind me in the ocean breeze. It was not. I should have been beautiful. I was not. I did see the glittered ocean and remnants of fog in the sky over the hills, and patted then gently the sleek flank of the horse. It wasn't a lot to go on in terms of a future, I mean. The moon is moving away from the earth imperceptibly, and now they say the earth, as it warms, is dimming. It gives off less light, is what that means. It doesn't matter really who leaves who. It's all equal when abandonment arrives. This is not another poem about the end of the earth or the universe. It's so much more local. A slow walk from one life to another, one tired horse cooling down. And then two more poems, both spy poems. This one is called In Spring Comes Forsythia and All That. And there goes the shoulder shrug, signaling the boredom that surfaces when all you have to do all day is follow some foolish someone around town. I've been told that a woman alone makes a bad spy because she cares too much about how she looks. And most women do care, because who among us doesn't want to be pretty? Wry seduction is, after all, a trick of spies. I am spared some demands because being beautiful is nothing I can claim. I am the one no one notices. I could be a spy, and maybe I am, except for one foolish thing. No one can make, even this late, a wig hat big enough to cover my great mane of dazzling white hair. And I'm going to close with a poem called Reconstruction. In this poem, very new, very recent, like last week, the spies did a strange thing. New spies take new forms as algorithms, avatars. They still mine details as they did, but now, from far away on Mars, they measure treads of tires on the Curiosity, rover, over, now, cover, copy, out. Now there's war. No doubt, they say, while LLM can spout psychobabble, tectonic wobble, damage done to be undone, repair, repair. That's all that's there. Thank you very, very, very much. Appreciate it. I should say that the last poem I read was inspired by another television series, which is called For All Mankind, which I became absolutely obsessed with over the last month. And I'm still obsessed with it. And who knows if there will be more adventures of the spies on Mars. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, swell.
Thanks, Ruth.
Oh, that was just so excellent.
I will.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really
Um,
love the coffee poem.
the use of images and motifs that you stretch out and find different ways to employ,
Yeah.
and the deliberate laying out of language in the poems is just shows the experience and the craft that you bring. So what a treat that was. We usually give a minute in between the poets if anybody else wants to shout out and come off mute. But there is a lengthy, as Greg was predicting, a lengthy list of chat comments for you to work your way through. With that said, I'm going to read the bio for Matthew Spireng. So Matthew's third full-length poetry book, Good Work, won the 2019 Sinclair Prize and was published by Evening Street Press. His previous full-length books are What Focus Is and Out of Body, winner of the 2004 Blue Stem Poetry Award from Blue Stem Press at Emporia State University. He is also the author of 5 chapbooks. He is and I personally feel a need to take a pause here, 14-time Pushcart Prize nominee and lifelong resident of Lamontville in Ulster County. Matthew, you are up.
Thank you, Ken. Ruth, that was wonderful. I really, really enjoyed that. For anybody who's taken aback by the she, her, I mean the he, him, not she, her by my name, um, uh, I have nothing against any of those things except I'm using somebody else's Zoom account who's a she, her, and it came up next to my name and we couldn't remove it. So I had to add the he, him, not she, her, lest those people that know me think something has changed in my in my life, which it has. Well, lots of things have changed in my life, but not that. I have nothing against any of those. Anyway, I'm going to open with a prayer. I thought that would be appropriate tonight. Um, it's a poem called Prayer. It has an epigraph from a Facebook post. The epigraph is, "We need to be praying for Trump instead of constantly criticizing him." Prayer. Please, Lord, let this man learn some humility. Give him a brain so that he might know that others know more than him about many things. Give him ears that lead to a brain so that he might heed good advice from others. Give him compassion so that he might empathize with others. Give him many lessons in the 9th commandment, the one about lying. And while you're at it, you might give him lessons in the 1st commandment, the one about no gods before God. The 6th, the one about killing people. The 7th, the one about adultery. The 8th, the one about stealing. And the 10th, the commandment against coveting. Please, Lord, teach him reading comprehension so that he might understand the Constitution and the laws of the United States. Remind him, O Lord, that one day he will die, and when he does, there will be a judgment, and that when he is judged, it will be neither Republicans nor Democrats who are judging him, and that everything he has ever said will be used against him for good or ill, such as it was. Please, O Lord, we beg of you now in our hour of need. Please, Lord, hear our prayer. Might as well mention the elephant in the room at the beginning, right? This poem is called Little Girl. My friend's dog, Little Girl, would slip out in the evenings and disappear, so he'd wander the streets in his neighborhood at dusk, calling out, Little Girl, sometimes loudly, sometimes pleadingly, worrying that now he'd lost her for good. Come here, little girl, where are you? He'd call, not once thinking of what it sounded like until a mutual friend who also lived in his neighborhood heard him one night, not realizing it was he. The mutual friend heard a man at dusk pleading, Come here, little girl, where are you? And he thought to call the police until he peeked out his window and saw our friend and rushed out the door to confront him. What are you doing? He demanded of our friend who was seeking his dog. Looking for my dog, my friend said innocently. Do you know what it sounds like? Our mutual friend asked. What? My friend said. Little girl, come here, little girl, our mutual friend said in a far from innocent tone. Oh, my friend said as he caught a glimpse of little girl a block away. Little girl, he called out, begging, pleading. Little girl, come here. As eventually happened every night, little girl ran to him and he snapped on her leash and walked her home. But a few nights later, when he couldn't find little girl in his house, he remembered what our mutual friend had said and thought of how he'd sound if he went out as he had in the past to find little girl. So he just waited. And that's how my friend lost his dog, Little Girl. This is sometimes in fall. Maybe a sleeve, maybe the back of my coat, maybe my jeans as I swung a leg between strands of wire, barbed and waiting. Long ago, I followed my father in fall through woods, across boundaries strung with wire, and I was caught, stuck, or worse if I panicked and pulled, tore skin or clothing that I wore. Father would come to free me with hands and advice, but I never escaped what I remember, caught as we are in those moments when something snags and holds. This is surrender. I thought, what if I walked down the road with my hands up? What if I walked down the left side of the road facing traffic with my hands up? There's not a lot of traffic on this rural road, but cars will pass, trucks will pass. And what will the drivers and passengers think about the lone man walking down the road with his hands in the air, arms stretched toward the sky? What will they do? When the police arrive, and surely eventually the police will arrive, should I keep my arms raised, hands up, or should I surrender to gravity and lower them, surrender completely to gravity? and though I might be ignoring orders, fall to the ground. And then I thought, no, none of this is a good idea at all. I'll be shot or wind up in a mental ward, and my little experiment will become a big problem because walking down the road with one's hands up isn't normal. In all of our lives, we are taught to be normal. All of our lives, we are taught, no matter what, we must finally surrender to that. This is Faster Plants. It's spring in the 21st century, and everything is faster these days. Faster internet, faster news, faster lanes at the toll booths on the interstate, and now faster plants. I wonder if it is the potting soil or fertilizer they use, or if the faster plants the garden center is advertising on the big sign out front are genetically modified so they seem to leap from the soil overnight and rise at a rate that can be observed as if with a video fast forwarded of a normal plant growing at a normal pace. It's spring, early spring, and birds that have arrived faster than ever before are poised on the branches this Friday, Good Friday, it so happens, when I realize I have read the sign faster than perhaps I should have as we sped past in traffic, going faster than the posted speed limit, so no one pulled in to buy the Easter plants for sale. This is Good Work, the title poem of my last book. Good work. Good work, I thought today, is the muse, the fount of creation, the spark that lights the wick that lights the way to writing a poem. I was raking stones with a shovel along the driveway to gather them in piles and shovel them up to place them in the wheelbarrow to dump in the potholes winter and the spring thaw had conspired to create. There was such a profusion, the 800 feet from town road to garage had to be driven like a slalom course, though with no chance of success. The ping of the pebbles in the metal wheelbarrow punctuated the work. A neighbor honked and waved. It was too much to do in the time at hand, and though I'd hoped to get a third of the work done, I could only come close. But I'd done enough to see that the stones thrown to the side of the drive by the plow would nowhere near fill all the potholes that gaped. Still, as I'd thought, it was good work, better than idleness, better than napping, better than nothing at all. I could see what I'd accomplished, and when I drove out, I could feel good work still to be done. This is reading a book of poems by Lucille Clifton. This far in, I know when I turn the page, the next will amaze as well. The truth of it, the bother brought to bear on something simple, so it is no longer so simple, but bothered as well, as if someone is walking, just walking, but before you know it, is about to step in front of a bus. The next poem, called The Horse, is dedicated to Suzanne Cleary, who I'm not sure if she's still here or not. I can't see all the people that are still here. The reason it's dedicated to her is that a poem that Suzanne, who's a wonderful poet, a poem that she wrote called The Horse Latitudes. I can't see everybody. Does anybody I can see not know what the horse latitudes are? I'll assume somebody doesn't know what they are. It's an area of the ocean where when sailing ships would cross, it's very calm there, and the boats would slow down and hardly move. And to lighten the load, they would throw horses off the boat in the middle of the ocean. This is the horse. I cannot leave the image of the horse in the water, the horse thrown overboard in the middle of the ocean on a moonlit night, The horse following the slow-moving ship, eyes fixed on that only other object on the water. It did not ask to come. It did not willingly leave the field where it ran, its mane rising up in waves with each step. It did not like the stinging in its eyes. The taste of salt no longer brought pleasure. Its nostrils flared and its body grew heavier. Around it, long after the ship disappeared, circles were reaching in every direction, one outside the other. A few years ago, I learned about this incident that I had never heard of. That's mentioned in this poem that I'm going to read. The poem is called 10 Years Later, Anna Recalls That Day. It has an epigraph, which is, on December 6, 1917, two ships collided in Halifax Harbor. One, a munitions ship, caught fire and burned as residents of Halifax watched, many from their windows, before the ship exploded, killing more than 2,000 and leaving more than 10,000 injured. 10 years later, Anna recalls that day. I'd been watching whatever was going on in the harbor after two ships tangled, smoke rising. But then the baby started crying in the back bedroom, and I left the window, the parlor at the front of the house, to tend to her. I nearly fell on her when the explosion drowned her cries, shattered the front of the house. And to this day, I tell her she saved my life, crying as she had. Thousands died that day standing at their windows, looking out on the water, shattered glass, tearing them to shreds. Thousands more were injured, blinded, or otherwise maimed. All I did was bruise a knee, then, or maybe later, wandering as I did, carrying the baby in shock at what I saw all around. I tell her that when she was a baby, she saved my life with her crying, and she asks again about her father who was working on the docks. This poem the title is in quotes. The title is Your Call is Very Important to Us. I'm sure a few of you have heard that. Your call is very important to us. After all, it's the reason we have one computer and one person manning our phones. If your call wasn't very important to us, we wouldn't bother paying a person to answer questions from idiots like you who can't find out what they want from a computer. That person, by the way, is either busy right now answering a question from another idiot like you, or is taking a bathroom break or a snack break, or maybe that person called in sick today, and you could wait and wait and wait, and no one will ever answer. But you can leave a callback number, and we'll be sure to have that person call you back, though it will likely be when you've given up waiting for the call back and have left your house, or your cell phone is home charging and you're out. And of course, when and if you do finally speak to that person, the call may be monitored or recorded for quality purposes. Swearing is not advised because we may have a recording of it and it's illegal in some states. And remember, you can always press 1 and you will be entered into our automatic system, and a computer will give you a series of choices of questions to ask, and then it will answer your question, but only if it is one of the questions it says you can ask. Otherwise, hold for the next available representative. And remember, your call is very important to us and one of our employees whose job would not exist if it weren't for customers like you. This is the new order. They were looking for me for sure. They'd come for me where I work, were preparing to question me in a conference room when I fled. They were looking for me, for sure. A friend I encountered as I was fleeing took me in, would hide me, but there I was, my photo in the newspaper. They were looking for me, for sure. They'd come for me where I work, took issue with my views. I told them to go to hell and fled the building, somehow got away. They were looking for me, for sure. They'd come for me where I work, were preparing to question me. I told them to go to hell and fled. Now I was in hiding, photo in the paper. How long before they'd find me? They were preparing to question me. I'd done nothing wrong, but this was the new America. I was frightened to be in my own country. They were preparing to question me. They were looking for me, for sure. They'd come for me where I work, and I had fled, and I was in hiding. This is called Contemplating an Interview with Myself. What can I ask that I don't already know? Three more poems. This is Be Prepared to Stop. Says the big temporary orange sign at the side of the road, and I think how, when you are driving, you should always be prepared to stop. It's why cars come with brakes. Of course, the sign is suggesting something unusual will be encountered up ahead. Turns out it's quite a way ahead. So far, in fact, that I was apt to have forgotten the message on the big orange sign by the time I encountered it. A utility truck working on wires, blocking one lane, and flagmen at either end of it with two-sided signs that say either stop or slow. But the sign is firmly in my mind when I encounter the utility truck. I stop as instructed, wait briefly for an oncoming car to pass, then go slowly as instructed. And even as I pass, continue along the road toward home, I'm prepared to stop. I never know what I might encounter. In less than 2 weeks now, I'll be having aortic valve replacement. This is kind of large in my mind. This poem is about a previous procedure. It's called The Procedure. That was a catheterization. The procedure. I watched the ceiling tiles and lights appear and disappear as nurses rolled me out the door, down the hall, around corners and over little bumps, and with a great heave up the ramp to the door of the room where the doctor would enter my body, and they asked if I had any questions. I said, one, and asked if I should go to the bathroom to urinate. And while it was not audible, there surely was a collective, exasperated sigh, and they rolled me back down the ramp and down the corridor and around a corner and let me get up to go to the bathroom before rolling me again around a corner and down a hall and again with a great heave up the ramp to the door of the room in which in a little while any unasked questions I might have would be answered. I'm going to close with this poem. I would suggest you listen carefully. I know how one's mind sometimes wanders during poetry readings. I also know some of you might have heard this poem before. The reason you should listen carefully is because it's a very short poem, much shorter than this introduction has already been. It's a poem I call a given poem because every word of this poem, except the words she said, were said to me after a poetry reading a number of years ago on Long Island. The poem is called Compliment. Your poetry is like music, she said. Your poems, they kind of petered out and ended just on time. Thank you.
Fantastic, Matthew.
That's wonderful, Matt.
Oh, golly.
Thank you.
That
Thank you.
is absolutely incredible.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Yes, and as with Ruth, there's much to chew on in the chat. You can actually do a chat and chew all on your own. Any momentary comments can be made by coming off mute.
One.
Go ahead.
I loved all of it, this is truly, but the thing about the procedure, my husband's having those, but I once had brain surgery, and that the way you described going down the halls,
Uh-huh.
staring at the ceiling, God, I can really relate to that. I hope all goes well.
Thank
Yeah.
I thought that all of the poetry, just being the first time that I've heard your voice, your poetry, underneath it, there's a level underneath it that is so, it is profound and it is humble. You don't use big words. You don't use complicated sentences or whatever. It is there, but it is that that's the only thing I could think of. It just seems humble.
Yeah.
And in that humbleness, it is so profound. I really enjoyed.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say something very, very similar. How your poems begin. Well, first of all, they're narrative poems, which I love, and many of them are. And how your poems begin with something that is familiar, and they begin generally pretty benign. It progresses to where even when you get that huge shift at the end, it's still so soft. It's like a sucker punch, So really, really well done.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Let me do some quick house cleaning. As far as I can see, there are 4 Zoomers who have come on after I took roll call for wanting to read on the open mic. So if we can get a quick response coming off mute. Guy, did you want to be part of the open mic?
No, thank you.
Okay, I wasn't going to let you on anyway. Michael O'Mara. Michael, how about you? Yes? Okay.
No, Ken, I won't be staying.
Oh,
thank
okay,
you.
sorry. Sam Hardy?
Sure, thank you.
Yes? Okay. And Mr. Carr, Professor Carr.
You did a kitchen.
We'll leave that as a cliffhanger. Okay. Excellent. Okay, so I think we needed a little, moment or two between all the features to sort of like a sorbet to clear our heads for the next. So Tim Tomlinson is the author most recently of Listening to Fish, Meditations from the Wet World, a hybrid collection of prose, poetry, and photographs concerned with the splendors and the perils facing the world's coral reefs. He's also the author of the poetry collection Requiem for the Tree Fort I Set on Fire, one of the best titles, and the short story collection This Is Not Happening to You. He is the founder and director of New York Writers Workshop, and he teaches in NYU's Global Liberal Studies.
Playing a basket like this together. Good.
Here we are. We'll get everybody muted, except for Tim Tomlinson. Come on up.
Thank you, Ken. I always find global liberal studies a tongue twister, and you mastered that on the first crack. Well done. A shout out to Mike, and hope he gets healthy and back on track real soon. Thank you, Ken, for filling in, and such a pleasure to be reading with Ruth and Matthew. Ruth reminded me of how much I loved The Americans, and still do, and reminded me also of Spy versus Spy, that great Mad Magazine series that I used to collect in paperback. And Matthew, I think you reminded me of everything that happens to me every day, and makes me want to slam down the phone. So I guess I should thank you for that. Anyway, great to be here. I'm going to read a short piece of fiction and then some poems because it is National Poetry Month, and I don't think I've ever read poetry with caps. The story I'm going to read is called Jules Olitsky. In Henry Miller and Ernest Hemingway, the men drank grappa. I thought I should give it a try. The liquor store on Broadway and 113th Street had one bottle, way at the top of a seldom visited shelf. The clerk climbed 3 steps on the ladder and reached for it. On the way to the register, he wiped it down with a damp cloth. It had gathered dust. What might that portend, I wondered. At home, I poured, sipped, spat. It was, to be generous, awful. A strong, raw, biting taste that stank in the nostrils and, on the way down the gullet, burned every ringlet of the esophagus. I examined it closely, the translucence of a mildly tinted gel, the viscosity and aroma of nail polish. I stuck it in the pantry alongside cans of Goya black beans. This was not the kind of stash I needed to hide from roommates. It was the kind of stash one hoped roommates would find. They didn't. That was in 1977. In 1980, I sublet one of my rooms to a PhD candidate in art history from Goldsmiths, University of London. Her name was Gillian Bach. She was researching in particular the early work of Jules Olitsky. Of all the abstractionists, she said, I find his work the most appalling. You could hang it upside down and never know. I said, well, then why are you interested in him? I don't understand. And she said, with affectionate exasperation, Brian. Brian was her boyfriend. Brian loved Olitsky and Dubuffet and Schnabel. He loves the ugly, she said. And she showed me his picture, a Geordie, a person from Newcastle, she explained, with a tattooed face, hedge clipper haircut, and a smile with missing teeth. The most brilliant man I've ever dated, she said. Is he a writer? No, he's a drummer in a band called Placenta Brunch, she said. It's punk rock. Yes, I said, I suppose it would be. Brian was weeks away from his doctorate when he announced, that's it, I quit and joined the band. 2 weeks later, Brian showed up with a book and his passport, nothing else. Julian wasn't home, I let him in. The drummer of Placenta Brunch, I presume. Former drummer, Brian said. He was a long, lanky bloke, Giacometti with a mustache, and, as it turned out, quite enjoyable. Just his routine alone, awake by noon, maybe later, a quick splash at the sink, a walk up the hill to the Broadway market, then back down with a sixer of Miller High Life in 16-ounce cans, never chilled, which he set on the floor and proceeded to drink. He'd find a book, anything seemed to do, and camp out on the living room couch, reading and drinking for hours. He must have had a bladder the size of a Volkswagen because I think I saw him get up to piss just once, maybe twice, the whole time he stayed with us. And he remained planted until Jillian returned from her research after 5. I took to staying in my room, working there, but sometimes I wanted music. Will this bother you? I'd ask him, pulling a record from the living room shelves, to which he'd say, "Aw, mate, please." I'd put on Glenn Gould's Goldberg Variations. I rather like that, he'd say. I'd put on Ornette Coleman's Free Jazz. Yeah, he'd say, good choice. I'd put on Tom Waits. He'd say, precisely in it. A pleasant bloke, this Geordie. One night, Jillian hosted a small party, a half-dozen aspiring art historians, Brian, and me. Early on, she ran out of beer. Brian asked if there was anything else. I remembered the bottle of grappa, but I warned him of my experience. He said, yeah, let's have a look. I retrieved it from its spot near the beans. More dust had gathered on it than when I bought it 3 years earlier. It's been sitting around since the Eisenhower administration, I said, by way of explanation. No bother, Brian said. Give it here. Have at it, I told him, and don't worry about replacing it. He cracked the top, took a sniff. Interesting, he said. Then he poured several fingers into the glass he'd used for beer, swirled it around, took a mouthful. Ah, he said, delightful, delightful. It burns the chrome right off in it. In 60 minutes, it was gone. And not so long after, so was Brian. Jillian discovered Jules Olitsky's involvement in something she identified at first as a sex and psychoanalysis cult, still in existence with headquarters, if that's the right word, just blocks away. She went to interview members, then she joined. With Brian and Jillian gone, the apartment felt empty. Sometimes I'd pause at the living room and stare at the empty couch. When I wanted music, I'd study the rows of albums and select one after another, rejecting each for reasons that were never clear to me. Months later, I received a package from Brian, a copy of Placenta Brunch's first EP called Seconds. Its cover was a Jules Olitsky. It featured a track called Grappa. Thank you. Okay. So, a little while ago, I did a reading in Washington, D.C., and one of the writers on the roster said at one point, "Oh, you're so good at short poems," and that encouraged me to write a whole bunch more and to send a whole bunch out. And I'm going to read a few of my recent short poems. This one is called Truth, and it begins with an epigraph from the Japanese poet Hitomaro, translated by Kenneth Rexroth. And the epigraph is, "A strange old man stops me looking out of my deep mirror." Truth. How elevated the Japanese masters, apprehending truth in so few syllables, whereas I fill paragraph after paragraph, page after page, with words and more words, and now and then some punctuation. This is an upstate poem, something that I wrote in Beacon. I stayed there a while ago at a friend of ours who has a dog that we've fallen in love with, and I miss terribly. And at our friend's house, I had seen my first goldfinch. And she was surprised to hear that I'd never seen one because she said the garden is filled with them. So I started writing each morning in the room overlooking the garden, and this is one of the poems I wrote there, and it's called, appropriately enough, Goldfinch, and it begins with an epigraph from Chase Twitchell, the upstate poet Chase Twitchell, and the epigraph reads, "That's it. Goldfinch. I'm upstate New York, something like 100 miles south of Chase Twitchell, a Zen poet I greatly admired. I greatly admire and once actually met. She hated me. Some poets will, other poets, but that doesn't matter. What does matter is, I think, that goldfinch there, the first I've ever seen, on the disk of a sunflower, pecking away at the seeds, cracking some, dropping others. That's the way it is with seeds." Um, so I remember at that reading where a friend said the short poems were working, I had read a couple of poems that dealt with LSD, which I took a lot of when I was much younger, and still think about a lot, and in some way still miss and reminisce about. So I'm going to read a couple of LSD poems. This one is called Fugue Hallucination While Listening to Donovan, 1971. A boy sits on a Persian carpet, hovering a foot above the floor, in the center of many boys exactly like him, on many carpets, exactly like his carpet, hovering above many floors, and those many boys on many carpets, above many floors, circle slowly round that central boy on his central carpet, above the central floor, like blades spinning round a pinwheel, turning on or turning off an awareness that forms and transforms and dissipates and reforms, a question at the hearts of all those boys on all those carpets, which is, which of us spinning boys is the boy? And I'll read another called LSD. And that last poem, that was kind of a hallucination I had that may have been triggered by something I'd seen of George Harrison. Those of you who were around back when the Beatles were making albums may remember that the Magical Mystery Tour album came with an inner package with various images taken from the movie. And one of them was of George Harrison in some kind of an orange outfit, sitting in the center of a whole bunch of other George Harrisons that looked exactly like him. And I've come to understand that so many of the hallucinations that people have on psychedelics are part of this archetypal collective unconscious, and that I was actually experiencing things that so many others experience. And this is what the George Harrison image suggested. This poem called LSD is after George Harrison. He's spoken really eloquently about the psychedelic experience, and reading one of his interviews, I was moved to use what I think Matthew called a given, some language from the George Harrison interview, and then integrated with my own in an attempt to capture something of the experience. LSD. Before, I was totally ignorant. After, I knew I was totally ignorant. Knowledge, the idea of God, just the whole word God, childhood experience, going to church on a Sunday. Whereas in a flash, words, sentences on the lawn, paragraphs in the trees, the energy in between everything. No question, no answer, a realization, just absolute truth, a light that creation is supreme. Don't ask me why, I'm laughing. Okay. Well, I'd like to just do a couple of poems from the book that Ken mentioned called Listening to Fish, Meditations from the Wet World. This book is almost impossible to get. Those of you who publish with this publisher probably can sympathize. But I'll tell you that it's a book that, draws from my experiences as a scuba diver. I've been diving for many decades. I learned in the 1970s, and one of the one of the things every diver I think recognizes right now is that the coral reefs are in grave peril. Two-thirds of the world's reefs are missing, probably never to come back. And when they go, we go. One of the experiences of scuba diving is, you get to hang around with species that are peculiar and strange and that might motivate certain ideas. I'm going to read a poem called Legitimate Questions We Might Put to the Garden Eel. And the poems in the collection that deal with particular species include a note about the habitat and behavior of the species and the way that the species reacts to divers. So the habitat and behavior of the garden eel is that they are found in small to large colonies on sand near coral reefs. They extend only their heads and upper bodies from burrows. They continuously move in graceful wave-like motions to catch drifting plankton. Their reaction to divers, and this is what really stimulates the poem, is that they're extremely shy. They withdraw into the burrows when they're approached. They're easily frightened by bubbles and movement of the approaching diver. So, I come across fields of garden eels, dozens upon dozens, and I want to get in the midst of them, but the closer you go to a garden eel, the further it goes down into its hole, so that you can never touch them, never mingle with them. They disappear as soon as you get too close. So here's legitimate questions we might put to the garden eel. Have you ever been touched? Have you ever wanted to be touched? Did something happen that made you fear touching? Have you ever been tempted to find out what it would feel like to be touched by anything? Have you ever tried to be the last eel in the garden to disappear into a hole? Are you sometimes the first eel to disappear? Has your entire body ever been outside your hole? Do you believe things that do bad things can change? If I said, I've done bad things, but I've changed, would you trust me? Would you believe me if I told you that I've been hurt too, but that I learned to trust, that I had to learn to trust? Do you trust other eels? Why are your holes so far apart? Do your holes connect underneath the surface? Is there like some giant eel party going on in some giant eel party space just below the sea floor, where you're all just laughing at us, complaining about how untrusting you are, how antisocial, how neurotic, agoraphobic, paranoid? Do you personally party, or do you simply extend all day, every day into the current and feed on things that drift by, then recede into a hole at the approach of anything and everything, including shadows? Are you satisfied? Are you alive? Is that any way to live? Has anyone ever told you how beautiful you are? And I want to close with another species poem. This one is called Spotted Drum. I'll read the habitat and behavior and the reaction to divers. So the spotted drum is a very small fish, black and white, maybe that size, the size of between my thumb and fingers. It inhabits secluded areas of coral reefs. They're often under ledges or near the entrances to small caves. They usually swim in established circuitous patterns, and they feed in open at night. Their reaction to divers is they're generally unconcerned, and divers can get very close to them. So because they're so small, they're difficult to spot, but it's cool when you find one because you just notice something on your peripheral vision and it's just going around in circles. And it doesn't seem to be any kind of goal-oriented behavior. It's not a mating behavior. It's not a feeding behavior. They just go around and around and around. So this is Spotted Drum. Spotted drum, you spin and spin and spin. How come? Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Your lines are so supple. Love your work.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love how you and Matthew both ended on a very, very short, pithy, you better listen to it because it's coming and then it's going to be gone poem. And really brought to a really, really good conclusion.
Thank you, Ken.
We do
Grappa,
have, go ahead, Margie.
grappa is Greek, right?
Yes.
Is it Greek?
Yeah. It's like turpentine.
Yeah.
Indeed.
I've had it, and it's just horrible. I don't know. The Greeks love it.
Yeah, I understand that there are some very fine grades of grappa. I've seen people that I really respect and admire drink it and order it and love it. I can't imagine why, but that's my experience.
It's all in the same family of flavor and taste. And it's actually made from, if I recall, the stems of the grape. So it's not even from the grape. It's from the stems, just to show you how fresh it is, Yeah.
Pretty
cool. The part that you throw out.
Right. Yeah.
Stomp it, then kick it away.
That was wonderful, Tim. Really enjoyed that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, well, we're all smiling here. So, all right. Well, if anything else, I mean, again, the chat is been quite populated, so you can dip and delve into that. I'm going to go back to the fact that we're going to segue into the open mic. Most everybody was here at the top when I mentioned a few of the protocols for the evening. A couple people came in afterwards. So we have now it's about 17 or 18 open micers. So we are going to limit this to one normal size poem, define that as you will, or a couple of short poems. If they're like micro poems, you can read 3, Mr. Heman. And they're going to go pretty much in the order that I wrote them down in which people were on the Zoom screen. And I'm going to go by first name. I think everybody knows who you are, I hope. And you can self-identify. So I'm going to also give a heads up as to who's coming up.
Purchase and shipping restrictions vary by state and municipality. Go to Byrna.com to check availability.
That's good to know.
That's really important to know too. That was a public service announcement, no extra charge. Okay, so the first 3 readers, we're going to start with Margie, and then we're going to have Jude, and then Donna, and I'll announce it as we roll along. So Margie, if you're ready, you're up.
I'm ready.
All right.
And no introduction. I think that the poem is like self-explanatory. It's called This Time. Silence most of the time is pretty quiet. Today, just a few swish patterns of an air purifier near my couch was enough to interrupt the silence. I was in the middle of an eyelid drooping couch pause. The silence woke me up. Or maybe it was the swish. Sometimes it's difficult to ascertain which is which. This time, I had to let fear and loathing take the center spot. Silence and the swish, slow and easy, could not replace the dread explosions of bombs, of fire, of concrete splattering, as if it were returning to sand after it buried young girls. Is this the best we got? Is this the dust to dust return from biblical epiphanies, all going back to the hot dirt screaming with fires? Humanity is in need of a few ICU nurses. I stole that line from a news broadcaster. Everything seems to be fair game. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you, Margie. Okay, Jude, as advertised.
Thanks, Ken. Okay, so this poem is very, very, very new because even though I don't live over there anymore, I still observe National Poetry Month and try to write a poem every day. And a friend of mine provides prompts. Yesterday's prompt was satire. And this poem is so much of the moment that I may never get a chance to read it again, so I'm going to read it now. It's called Jonathan the Giant Tortoise Did Not Die Yesterday. The world's oldest land mammal, or so we think, lives on St. Helena. And if that South Atlantic dot sounds familiar, perhaps you know that Napoleon did, in fact, die there in 1821, a decade or so, we don't exactly know, before Jonathan's egg cracked in his native Seychelles. And perhaps you also know that Napoleon died in exile at 51, unlike Jonathan, who did not die yesterday and is, in fact, pushing 200. And although Jay was taken from his homeland against his will, he has never, as far as we know, planned to overthrow a government or go to war or march on Moscow. On the contrary, Jay lives an easeful island life with his longtime companion, Frederick, as his obituary may someday point out. And although his eyesight is no longer good, he can still fuck and he can still smell food. So Jay did not die yesterday on April Fool's Day, 2026, a year in which Napoleon, if he was still alive, might feel vindicated, a year in which for many of us exile on a distant island has as much appeal as a trip to the moon. But Jonathan's death was nevertheless reported. Even the BBC, a sometimes trusted source, although much younger, of course, than Jonathan himself, carried this greatly exaggerated report, which turned out to be not a joke, but a scam, an email not from Jonathan's human, but from a grifter in search of crypto donations in lieu of grief, in the year of our overlords, or so they say, 2026.
I'm going to channel Mike with the phrase he would have said right about now of well done. Yeah. And you actually maybe could read it again next year with just a slight tweak. So it's not a one-time affair.
Wonderful satire.
Yeah. Okay, then we have Donna. Now so get ready, Donna. But after Donna, you may have noticed we got Bob and Nancy, and I'm plugging myself in there. And I'm going to also plug Greg in somewhere in the roster because he usually goes last at these at the caps, but we got to bump him up here somewhat. So Donna, you're up.
Thanks, Ken. This is a simple poem, but there is a word that you may not be familiar with. It's the word billabong. In Australia, it's a small, isolated waterhole or a pond formed when a river changes course, leaving just water behind. And this is called Once a Thirsty Magpie's Visit. The clouds have stopped their thin showers now. The grass is green enough, but the sun directly over my head isn't enough, let alone too much. A magpie stands on its own pale shadow on the almost flat slats of my timber decking where just short of a dozen magpies could fit. His head cocks at an angle. Only one side's keen eye is doing the work of finder. Not for anything trivial, but for a puddle unrippled by my whispered welcome. It's just millimeters shallow, not much more than a coin thick, but deep enough to keep a bird in drink. Using his beak side on, he scoops life as if from a billabong, without a splash about or spill. He raises his head to the sky with a gymnast poise, with nothing heavy on his shoulders, swallows, then warbles. My veins engorge, my heart pours, high spirits. What a waste if the puddles were to sit there ungulped without a magpie's visit. On that drift, my day pictures and lifts to bring back and salute, his song pushing the air with the score of his secrets.
Oh, that was excellent. Thank you.
So please look at the chat. There were so many memorable lines and turns. I really like your work.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I don't know if Billabong is still a U.S. fashion, or it was a fashion designer brand. It certainly was for some years. May still be around, but if Americans generally know Billabong, it's from, they're wearing a shirt that they have no idea where the name come from. So
It's from the song Waltzing Matilda.
Waltzing Matilda,
I'm
yeah.
not sure. I used to love that song when I was little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if anybody's read any, Australian novelists, Peter Carey, Tim Winton, would have come across that long before now. So that was great.
Okay, thank you.
That's why they call you best. All right. That was really, it's late. Later by you, I'm sure. Okay, so we're going to have next up in the round of three is Bob, then Nancy, then myself. And I'll give a heads up after that. So, Mr. Heman, get in there.
Okay, I'm going to do something I don't do as often, to read some very old pieces that are from an old book called Clues that was published in 1982. Clone. Leave it be. It only looks like me. Memory. It wasn't until he noticed the little cut between his fingers. And if it's okay, I'll do a third one.
Absolutely.
Okay. Riddle. If my name were Herman Heman, I would be one. Thank you.
All right. Not to press you, but that is to press, not depress. But if you've got a fourth one handy,
yeah,
we've got the easy time for that.
Yeah, okay.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Clues. The dancer, the wall, the ivory claw, the letter, the black velvet glove.
Nice.
Thank you.
So good.
Oh, thank you. Your short poetry is sort of like these delayed detonation poems. They just keeps coming back and kind of exploding. Nancy, you are our next victim.
Thanks so much, Ken. I'm going to read a newish poem. It's called The Vase. We were at the fair together, something my mother tried to resist. But here we were, walking in step, each in our own way, looking at beautiful objects made by hand. When we stood before the vase, what I saw had to do with color, shape, pattern, the strange and untold mastery of its coming into being, how the hand moved the clay just that way, the way the fingers pressed in just so far. I was thinking how there must be music fired into the walls of the clay, singing out only if it was struck or broken. Already, my mother was haggling over the price, arguing about how it was too expensive, getting ready to strike a bargain. I was once again overcome by a feeling of embarrassment, an impulse to escape. But it's one of those moments you decide to stop, to look down and see how deep the gorge really is, to feel how shaky it really is, this fragile rope bridge you're standing on, trying to get to the other side. And then I remembered how, as a child, my mother would take me to our favorite restaurant in Chinatown, where I would pick out whatever I wanted: golden fried shrimp balls, fragrantly steamed dumplings, pillowy buns filled with sweet and savory barbecued pork. She ordered me to eat, and always, with pleasure, she paid the bill. Thank you.
That was
Excellent, thanks.
wow. So good.
Yeah, love the details. Makes it all relatable, even when we can't even relate to that particular experience, but you bring that to us, so that's great.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Thanks, Nancy.
Okay, so after I read, as advertised, it's going to be Naomi, Holly, and then Lenny. Okay, so my poem is called Pyres. I used to lament when the creosote-soaked fragments of my dreams would combust within moments of my waking, and in the haze of my own disrepair, I'd reach out to touch what remained of their dying heat. But I now enjoy their disintegration, each cryptic image given over to dispersion, and I, with a wave of my hand, hurrying along their departure. It seems to me there's now no more need for dream. This waking world is no longer holistic, no longer of a narrative nature, as what we walk through in our waking hours has come to embody the tattered remains of our unconscious, the fractal lines of reality, fracturing along the length of our sanity. Dreams were never meant to make sense of what's senseless. They were only to strain out the larger impurities, to soften the surface of our madness. Hear now a moment that comes back to me, the time my nephew gave space to the voice inside his head, and the terrible argument he said they'd had, one that left open a particular possibility. And I thought, what other species would ever envision bringing a gun up to its head and engage that gun in conversation? What other mammal, even in dream, would think it an act of mercy to listen to a voice in the shape of a trigger and think how selfless it would be to apply just the right pressure? God, I hope there's something more optimistic coming after that. Naomi, what do you got?
Oh boy. I'm a little I'm uncertain about what the length is that counts as short, but I've got two that are right around 100 words, so I'd like to. Thanks. So the first one, these are both new. I haven't read them yet. Here we go. This is called Missing Pieces. The fact is, it's not fair. It's not fair that you are not here. It's not fair that mom is not here. Children being starved is not fair. Houses rolled over by bulldozers, schools bombed, bodies flayed into fragments. It's not fair the air is poisoned. It's not fair few have so much and most have so little. It's not fair, but not reason enough to not see the ink-black geese ribboning through the orange sky, to not feel the joy of this robin-filled moment, beauty and anguish all of a piece. Oops. And my second one is called Passing. Maybe something about the shaved sides of her undercut, though maybe it was just a pulled-up ponytail or how her barn coat slung low over her shoulders as she strutted her cart into the store. Somehow I saw her and smiled. Not a real smile even, just to myself, not even with my mouth, probably my eyes only, but enough. She saw. And in that second beamed back a wide open smile, not like my timid one, her whole face radiant, blazing like sudden spring sun splashing the wet grass, each blade tip shining, tiny drops of vibrating color, warming me all day. That's it for me.
Love
Two perfectly sized poems and two perfectly perfect poems.
Yeah.
That's really added so much to hear those two back to back. Thank you. Okay, so we're on to Holly. Yes, Holly.
Hello, everyone. I really enjoyed the poetry tonight. I'm from Albuquerque, so I don't know if you all are on the East Coast, but anyways, I'm out here in the Southwest, and I want to read a poem for you called Serial Monogamist. Are you a serial monogamist? Come on, you know who you are. Do you suffer from just not being able to find the right one? Do you try one and then another, always thinking maybe this is the one, and then it turns out not to be? Are you so sick of being disappointed that you've just about given up? Are you sick of your friends saying things like, well, who are you with this week? Or, I was just getting used to your last girlfriend. Or, tell me again, how many husbands have you had? I understand what you're going through. I feel your disillusionment. I know how your self-esteem has been crushed again and again, feeling the fool. What was I ever thinking that it was gonna work this time? Driving you into depression, wondering what's wrong with you and whether you're really worthy of love. So, you're a serial monogamist. You're embarrassed to say it, let alone admit it to other people. So you keep it inside, afraid to say it, afraid to hear it. But guess what? You're not alone. There's a whole lot of others out there just like you, suffering the same shame. So you know what? It's time to come out of the shadows, no longer ashamed of who you are. Just remember, it could be a whole lot worse. You could be a serial polygamist. Yes, it's time to come out of the closet. Hold your heads high. Organize a demonstration for your human rights. Start a petition for a box to check on the census under marital status. Demand a special day with a parade. Add another color to the rainbow. So, you're a serial monogamist. It's okay. Maybe you should just enjoy being single. Maybe it frees you to do other things. Maybe there'll still be someone in your future. Maybe you shouldn't worry about it. So now, when you can look in the mirror and say the words proudly, when you feel so sure within yourself that you can reject the negativity implicit in the label serial monogamous that they have given you, insist on being called EREs instead. extensively relationship experienced.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh my God, Holly, that's so good. Be sure to look at chat. You have a lot of fans.
Yeah, thank you for the passion and the conviction. Yeah,
Thank you.
all rolled up. Oh, that's great. And thank you for coming in from New Mexico, from Albuquerque. Have been there and Santa Fe and a few other places in between. So
Yeah, we have a big poetry scene out here if anyone ends up out here.
I'll fly my balloon in one day, I'm sure. Okay, Lenny's up next, and as I had advertised again, after Lenny, we're going to have Deedle, then Raphael, and then Stephen. Mr. Dellarocca.
I forgot to unmute. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Greg, the featured poets. You guys were fantastic. Some of those poems right up my wheelhouse. Anyway, this is a new one called Pardoned. And this came about at AWP at one of the tables. They were doing some kind of game thing, and whatever it was, and it turned out that they said, well, here's your prompt. You have to write a poem about a ladder or with a ladder in a stream or in a well. And I said, that sounds great. So I started off and ran with it. It's called Pardoned. Mythologically speaking, I lowered the ladder into the stream. I'd come to the end of my journey. Sadness wasn't why their voices wept after I left them burning. Intent had nothing to do with it. It was instinct, or so I tried to explain. Instead, they threw a hooded cloak from the tower. It's their belief that not even the worst creature in the world should be punished. Not by them. They let me go. The graceful ones spoke, and heliotrope bloomed. Women took off their blue scarves. No one moved except to put a hand up to cough, looking down as I passed. I was throwed down. Everybody knew it. Sometimes I still wonder why none of them locked their doors. Why didn't they gather stones? Fountains spent all their lonely coins. It was if the straw I brought them was harmless. They only watched my hands conduct the air. Thank you.
Wow. Another type of poem that just takes time to absorb.
It's like slow tide coming in.
Yeah. Good way to put it.
That's a really cool effect, Lenny. What you just I loved it.
Yeah, well, that allowed us a breath, for sure. Deedle, if you'd step up to the Zoom mic.
Okay. Hello. There you go. My face looks so big. All right. Never mind. Hi, my name is Deedle. Ken, thank you so much for the opportunity to hear Tim and Ruth, who are both my mentors, and Matthew as well. And before I start, I just want to say that I was born and raised in the Philippines. I lived under martial law. And I've lived here in America for 30 years now, and I can't believe that we've come to this point of what feels like a dictatorship. And so I don't know if you can see, I'm actually wearing yellow. This is the color of protest in the Philippines, and I believe that's also the color here. And I did join the No Kings rally over the weekend with Tim. This poem is called Being, and it came out here in this anthology. You can't see it, sorry. It's called Right Forward, a Constellation of Voices, and it's an anthology of all women poets. It's called, and my poem is called Being. I remember being 14. I remember I loved diving. I remember diving into a kiddie pool, the lifeguard glaring, warning me not to do it again, but I did. I remember waking up. I remember walking out. I remember marching along EDSA Highway 2 weeks after my 23rd birthday during the People Power Revolution, shouting, "Tama na, sobra na, palitan na," until Marcus fled. I remember my father. I remember my mother. I remember at 10 standing in my mother's backyard, the cucinera chopping off a chicken's head, the chicken flapping wildly, the chicken running headless, the chicken running round and round and round till it dropped down dead. I just want to translate what I said. Tama na, sobra na, palitan na was the, how would you say, the rallying cry during the People Power Revolution. And basically what it is enough. We've had it. Time for a change. Thank you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I love your poem.
Thank you.
I hope you took those words in the English translation and you printed them on a poster that you marched down wherever you celebrated, as it were, or protested on No King's Day.
Yeah, I wish I did. I should. And and I just want to encourage people, keep doing it, because yeah, Marcus fled eventually. So yeah.
Yeah, I was there marching down 7th Avenue this past weekend. So yeah, it's all you can do. And vote. And, the poem is beautifully structured. So kudos for that. Wow. Okay, well, Raphael, you're following that.
Okay. Okay, I have a poem that's recent. I wrote it, I guess, right after he bombed Iran, but it's also involves Alex Pretty and the big snow we had in February. Under the feeder, under the skies. 15 inches of snow, and the sparrows look so much larger than they really are on all that white. The small lump on my left breast is the size of a pea and isn't going anywhere. His former mentor said Alex Pretty was a small man in stature, but big on the inside. 4 large men in uniform pinned him to the ground. The forecast is below freezing until next month, and the sparrows continue to gather seeds, sustain the warm, pulsing bodies, deliberate in holding on until spring, and us, holding on for after, for what comes, as we watch and listen and steel ourselves larger than we really are, while the stars flame above, offering nothing we can decipher. And one other short one. This one's very new, and I'm always either stupid or brave reading these very new poems, but we had a full moon this past week, and we couldn't see it here because it was cloudy, but I could feel that moon. So it's called During a Clouded Full Moon. The clouded moon, more felt than seen, like a ghost makes fragile lace of the still bare limbs, scratching against a darkened heaven. The moon feels like God. We know it's there, somewhere, but we can't see it. We glean its presence by the pale gray light, filtered like too little dye to color the cloth of our dolor. So soft, so fine, this wafer of grace. And that is how we are called to believe, our thin and hungered longing. Thank you.
Wonderful. That
Yeah.
was truly good.
As always, language and imagery. Yeah. As so many people have brought tonight, seems to be a theme that it's all quality. I don't know how this happened. Mike picked a good night to have me co-host, the guest host here, so I'll take credit for it. So Stephen's coming up next, but after him, Greg, get ready because you're part of the next batch. It's Greg, Cree, then Julie. Stephen, you're up.
I have two shorter ones. The first is called Eschatology. The dawn portends an O. Henry ending, a melange of good and bad, something sacrificed, something gained, a zero balance to the exchange. Each day presents another choice, one cup marked travail, another trouvaille, maybe a third for the Monty switcheroo, some combination of the other two. Most times I decline to take a pick and play at Bartleby and rather not, or else a proof rock PJ lol, too timorous to return a call. I know one day I'll no longer get to choose, perhaps today, according to the news. And the second one is called Good Morning World. Today I awaken as a bird crumpled on a sidewalk, dazed and blinking, blaming the invention of glass, astonished at how easy it is to be fooled. I step across my threshold and bam! There it is, the day, shocking me conscious like no cup of coffee could, with fresh air and warbles and troubles sure to come, while blandishing some joy waiting to be unearthed. I see you, Robin. You're up early, friend. You got the worm. You built your nest. You did what was expected and you did it well. But be careful flying home. That glint of light may not be the sun. Thanks.
Thank you, Stephen.
There's a killer last line. Wow. Perfect. That's well. Okay. Well, Mr. Corell, as Mike would say, if I'm going to channel him for the moment, the man behind the curtain or behind the caps curtain. Are you up and ready for bringing us a poem?
I am using a different camera than normally. It's discombobulating. Okay. I have one poem. And I never talk ahead of time with my poetry, but this one just kind of reeled out of me under the title of Imaginary. And I tried to get into some sort of lizard part of my brain, but not lizard part, I don't know. Imaginary. Repulsive grin. Rehearsing with grains. Tyrolean fancy pants. Foamy pelleted need. A melt-away ricochet. Ailing jackdaws unite. A hat like bent-back procreation. I carry my lamp behind me. A handful of bastard ants. A linen tail, hand-sewn and split. Magazine in between times. My light shows where I've been. The imaginary world of intimacy. My light is for those who follow. Can a rattlesnake smile? I point my light for you and your errant feet.
Wow. It's different, but not different for you. But bringing something like this forth, and you're making, cognitive sense of this stream of the poem is really, a delight to follow. So thank you. Yeah. Wow.
Thanks.
Okay. And next up is the person whose name I apparently pronounced correctly the first time, Cree. I do see Cree is among us. If you can hear, you're on mute. You're on video mute. You're on audio
I
mute.
am. I am.
Excellent.
And
Excellent.
actually, I think I tuned in a little bit late, so I didn't hear the intro, but I was not intending to do open mic because I'm not a poet. But I wanted to hear your featured people. So thank you. Lovely event. And all of the readers have really inspired me. So thank you.
Well, that's great. Well, we'll Caps will send you a refund then, so we're good.
All right. Sorry.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me actually. Okay, so it's going to be Julie next. However, the only other person that I've taken note to read is Sam, who will be after Julie. Is there? Let's get there, and we'll find out if there's somebody I missed. So, Julie, bring it on.
Okay. Oh, there's a Julian, but you said Julie, right?
Julie.
Right. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. It's you, and then Julian, and then Sam. Thank you. But yes.
Okay, but now it's me. Okay.
Yeah, now it's you. Okay.
Okay. This is something a little lighter, but it's something I wrote in 2017, soon after Donald Trump's first inauguration. And it's called Donald, but it's even more relevant now than it was then, I think. Donald the Bantam Rooster speaks his mind. It's the year of the rooster. Melania just told me. The Chinese New Year fell on January 28th, just 8 days after my coronation. What's that you say? Inauguration? Big deal. What's the difference? Either way, I'm finally emperor. I'm cock of the walk. I've got a lot to crow about. This can't be mere coincidence. New Year, New America. See, even the Chinese are bowing down to worship me. They named the new year after my sign. Me, the sun god. I like the sound of that. What's that you say? Louis XIV used it first? Wasn't he the guy who built all those palaces and filled them with gilded furniture? I learned about him from Ivana when we were furnishing Trump Tower in Mar-a-Lago. Hey, that's a good comparison, me and Louis, but my buildings are much bigger. Besides, wasn't he a scrawny little wimp? I watched the Netflix series. Sad. What's that you say, Jared? The rooster's not my sign. What is it then? The dog? You're kidding, right? Intelligent, honest, obedient, loyal? No way. How dare the Chinese zodiac slander me? Maybe we should nuke them. What do you think? Go ahead, make my day. Bomb them to oblivion. No more made in China clothes. Trade bonanza. What's that you say? The fire dog because of my birth year, 1946? Same as Bill Clinton's? Even worse. That filthy horn dog, screwing all those tasty bitches while lying Hillary looks the other way. Compared to mine, those bitches were skanky. Remember Monica, that pathetic porker? A 5, and the others were 8s or 9s at most. Well, mine are always 10. Just look at my daughter, Ivanka. No, don't, on second thought. If Jared could read my mind, he'd kill me. What's that you say, Jared? I'm only kidding. Can't you take a joke? What's that you say? The year of the rooster is especially bad luck for those born in the year of the dog. What utter crap. I don't believe a word you say. The truth is always lies. Matter of fact, you're fired. And that's it.
Well, there you go. That is it. I mean,
it was all too true. I had no idea. Like I said, I wrote that almost 10 years ago. But it's very weird.
Well, let me thank you for bringing the poem of the least ambiguity this evening. That is the winner right there. Yes, just by happenstance, we're going from Julie to Julian. And Julian, if Greg will bring you up and spotlight you, and I think you often share a screen. Let's see what you bring tonight.
Yeah, hi. Screen is disabled. Yeah.
Greg, is that something on your end or is it on Julian's end too?
Julian, you need to turn on your video so that I can put you into the screen. Can you do that?
Yep, it's done.
Great.
There we go. Can you see the share button to share your screen?
Yeah, I clicked on it, but it says disable.
Oh, okay, hold on.
I can see him actually. I can see Julian.
Oh, sure.
Julian's trying to share the screen so that we can look at his his poetry written, as well as hear him read. So,
forgive me. The tools in Zoom have very, very recently changed, so I will find it momentarily.
Guys, when I click on share, it says host disabled. Oh, maybe for me, I don't know, but.
And the enabling for it is what's changed. It's not located where it used to be.
It's okay, I'll just read from.
Give me one more moment, if you can. Okay. You should see it now. It should work for you.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry for the delay.
The librarian. It's raining. I shake my umbrella exaggeratedly at the door. I'm late tonight, yet at the counter her eyes smile. She slips me the note. 851.1 PET. I dawdle between shelves as if lost, looking hither and thither. I live for the smells of these endless rows of books. Vanilla musk, earthy mushrooms, pine fresh newness. Once in an age page, I found a pencil note scribbled in the margin. Remember this for Anne. Oh, the mystery. Here we are, Petrarch's Canzonieri. It's all in Italian, but page 118 is annotated with a trademark pink sticky note in the middle. I Google Translate with my phone. She keeps me in a prison that she neither opens nor shuts, nor claims me for her own. I hang on to those words like the last dewdrop on a thawing leaf. Last Tuesday, it was 814.52 GIB. Love one another, but make not a bond of chains. Let it be a moving sea between the shores of your souls. I responded with 861.62 NER. I want to do with you what spring does with a cherry tree. Ooh, so crass in retrospect. My brain races Keats, Shelley, the ever-reliable Shakespeare sonnet. I'm such an illiterate peasant stuck in old cliches. Maybe I should move away from the 800s. I wander into the maze of shelves, giddy with this new thrill, like a 10-year-old at a treasure hunt. Something more contemporary, less soppy. My index finger tracks down the hardcovers at 152.41. Alain de Botton's The Course of Love, Eric Front's The Art of Loving, John Gray's Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Too glib. I can hear people shuffling out the door, self-scanning or queuing to have books stamped by her. It's almost closing, and I peek through the shelves and she's Venus under the lone fluorescent above her, the light glinting off her tight braids and soft curls like a halo. I'm getting desperate, sweating. Switch back to 823's English fiction, late 20th century. I scan Jilly Cooper, Jackie Collins, Sally Rooney. I vaguely remember the series Normal People. I thumb through it like a madman. The trick to the most read page is to place the book on its spine on the table and let it open itself. No luck. More lovey-dovey drivel. Then I spy across the shelves Gabriel Garcia Marquez, 100 Years of Solitude. A definite keeper. I lay it taut on the nearest table and let it flop open. There it is, page 375. It's enough for me to be sure that you and I exist at this moment. I place a fresh blue sticky note inside, fumbling with excitement. There are 3 copies, so I let this one stick out a bit. I write down 863.64 MAR on the back of our original note, folded in 2. The lights are being switched off. An indicator for the laggards. Heads buried in newspapers that it's time to go. My hands trembling, I approach a counter. We exchange knowing smiles. No books today, sir? Her face glowing like Bellini's Madonna, and I'm the baby in her arms. No, I'm swamped up to my ears. I stutter and kick myself. The note slides across the counter into a pocket. We nod in sync. I step out, and the rain has slowed to a drizzle. Next Tuesday awaits.
Sweet.
Thank you.
Very good, Julian.
Yeah, as I'll cut to a chat note that I'll let the person who wrote it, take the full credit, who chatted that you're a writer's writer
Mm-hmm.
while you're reading
Perfect.
that. So
Exactly.
it's worth actually saying it. And
Yes.
let me also say that Melville Dewey owes you a post-mortem thanks of gratitude for bringing him his poetry moment of fame. That was great. Thank you, Julian. So I've got Sam coming up last, except if somebody is going to wave their Zoom hand and tell me that they wanted to read and I missed them. So is there anyone else who wants to just call that forth, or are we on to Sam for our finale? All righty. There we go. Sam, I see you're a black box. I see you're off mute, so it seems you're ready to
I'm
bring us
definitely ready.
your work. Excellent. Bring it on.
And Julian, that's my favorite poem that you do. I really love that poem. So thanks for doing it. Okay, I just have 2 little short ones. The first one is called Fenced In Garden. And I wrote these both from prompts. So, they took like 7 minutes to write because it was a quick prompt. Fenced in garden. My father's garden had a fence made of beer bottles, glass bottoms reflecting the sky, while long nets dug into the soil clogging up holes that once touched his lips. He would sit in the garden, smoking his viceroys, slowly building that fence. And the second one is called Container. I carry oceans in a paper cup, careful not to tilt, careful not to spill, pretending paper is permanent. They said I was too much when the rim softened, when the bottom gave way, when the tide showed through. But paper was never meant to hold weather. Thank you.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Prim and nice.
Quite literally a 1-2 punch.
Smoking is Viceroy's working on that project there. That's vivid.
And the fence made out of beer bottles. I mean, it's just what an opener. Hard to think how we could bring a better closure to this.
Yeah.
So let me do a little PSA, which of course begins with and should almost end with let's give a Zoom hand to Ruth and Matthew and to Tim.
Yay.
Fabulous work. And for being there, and
Very-
we listen to all of us as we listened to all of you. It's really appropriate and appreciated, and it's not a given. So, so again, I'm going to channel briefly in the my Mike Jakovic here, and say that the next TAPS reading is the third Thursday of every month, and it's April 16th. And speaking of Grappa, the poet is Irene Sipos of Greek heritage. So that's again on Thursday, April 16th. And the next First Friday is another stellar lineup. We have Roberta Gould. We have our very own from the audience, Jude Marr, you heard this evening, and a pushcart winning Irene O'Garden, who is of also stellar quality. So it's going to be another fantastic lineup. That's on May 1st. Oh my God, that's May Day. God only knows what will be in for that day.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, keep the faith, as they say. It's been terrific. And we'll just catch you all on the rebound.